Welcome to the Robolinux RoboCop Timeshift application tutorial. Let's get right down to it. Okay. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the Windows restore points that don't work. They never have, and they never will. However, the RoboCop Timeshift application, which you can find over here from the main menu, wherever your main menu is. If you're using Cinnamon, you'll go to Administration, and you'll see RoboCop Timeshift there. If you're using the XFCE, you'll go to System, and if you're using the Mate 3D, you'll go to System Tools, and you'll find RoboCop Timeshift. Now, one of the main reasons that the Windows version of Restore Points is no good is it does not allow you to create your snapshots on external drives. And if you look where my mouse is right now, I'm pointing to a 2 terabyte external drive. And this is the proper way to use the Timeshift application, which I had to fix because, and I'm going to show you in a second, the source code, I'm going to go ahead and type my password. The source code had a really bad bug in it where when you press browse, it didn't know what your file manager was, and so it would just arbitrarily pick something silly like your music player to load the files, which is not only annoying but pretty stupid. But anyway, I fixed the source code. So when you click Browse Now, and you can see I have one snapshot, it's going to go straight to the location, which you can see. Let me just open this up so you can actually look at this. You can see that my snapshot is on my 2 terabyte drive in a folder called Timeshift under Snapshots with the date and the time. And of course, it's the local host. That's how Linux works. So this is something that really works. And the real point of this application is that you don't want to get yourself in a situation. There's two scenarios here. The first scenario, and of course is the worst, is that you've gone in and run a security audit by running the Robo backdoor security report, and you found there was a Trojan. It told you had a Trojan or a sniffer or a rootkit or some kind of malware, and so now you've obviously got to restore your operating system and your data files that don't have or have not been infected by that hacker. Now, the second scenario is some people like to play around with the operating system and install kind of strange software that that can happen in Linux. They may take an RPM application and they may install it, and it blows up their operating system, and so that would be the second scenario. Now, this is really an awesome application. It truly is. It's a shame the guy who wrote it, kind of fouled up the browse files, but that's okay. I fixed it. There's a wizard, which is really quite wonderful. You just click it, and now there's two options, rsync and BTRFS. Now, BTRFS is a special file system, and some Linux operating systems will use that, and therefore that's probably the one you would default to. But with Robolinux, we use ext4, and so we're going to use rsync, which I think is more efficient anyway. So here we are in the setup wizard. Click the next button, and here you'll notice that you're going to see SDB1, which is my Western Digital 2 terabyte external drive, and that's the one that I'm going to be selecting, because had I selected my crucial SSD, which is 512 gigabytes, which is SDA1, I would then be putting my snapshots on the same drive that could be hacked, which isn't going to do you any good. there actually is a third scenario, and that is your drive might die, okay? And then you could just reinstall your operating system and very quickly restore everything to its original condition. All the software applications you installed, all your local data, which is over here. I'm just going to show you around a little bit, okay? This is my Robo home directory, and in here I have my data. And now, one of the things I don't like to do is make a snapshot of my Windows because I already have a PC VHD backup file, and there's no sense in going through a huge snapshot wasting disk space on my 2 terabyte drive. So let me show you how you stop the RoboCop Timeshift application from making a snapshot of something that you don't want, and it's going to be under filters, and I'll show you that right now. So if I hit next, it asks me, select snapshot levels. Now what does that mean? That means monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, and on boot. Now I'm not in favor of on boot, but it does actually wait like I think 10 minutes before it starts that after the boot. It will run in the background, and you shouldn't really notice too much because rsync is so wonderful. The reason I know that it doesn't really take up much processing power is I have this, as you can see down here, I have a temperature gauge that I added to my Cinnamon, and when that temperature gauge starts going up, that means that that the system is very busy, and of course you would notice a slowdown if in fact the Timeshift application were causing a lot of CPU and disk I/O. Of course, you could always run HTOP to see what see what the load level is, and right now, I've got a lot of things going on, so my load levels are somewhere in the area of about 20%, somewhere like that. But I can't even notice that because Linux is so efficient. So let's discuss the snapshot levels. Now, I'm a believer that the weekly and the daily are probably pretty good, and an hourly, but if you really want to be super safe. And I only want to really keep one copy because that's just my preference. If something were to go wrong, I really only need the one that I've got saved under hourly. This particular setup, I've got it set for weekly. You can get emails sent to you. I generally don't need one, so I just press the stop option here, stop the cron emails for scheduled tasks. Now, you can play around with this, and everything pretty much depends on how much disk space you have on that external drive. On mine, I've got a 1.4 terabytes available, so I could actually run a monthly, a weekly, a daily, an hourly, and I'm probably never going to do one on boot because there's no sense for me to do that. And as it says here, boot snapshots are created with a delay of 10 minutes after system startup. And that's pretty neat because, who wants to have a slow boot? Okay, so we'll hit next. Now here, this is where you're going to select whether or not you want to have your home directory as well as your operating system. And your operating system is user root. And you can include the hidden files, which I highly recommend. I include all because there's no sense in restoring a system that's missing files. And then in my case, of course, what I've done is I've got my operating system here under user root, and I've got my personal data in the home directory selected to include all. And now let's take a look at settings, because this is where you can set your filters. And see here you have your location, you have your schedule, you have your users, and now here you have your filters. Now, this is important that you get this right. So as you can see, the plus means that we're going to actually create a snapshot of the root, and star star means everything. That means not only just regular files, but also hidden files. And the same goes for my home Robo data folder, okay? However, I don't want that Windows 764 VDI file backed up, so I've checked it as a minus, okay? Because I don't need to back that up. That'll just use up a bunch of disk space I don't need to use. And then I have a special folder called Files that has ISOs in it, and I don't want those either because those are on my backup drive. So what I'm going to get when I create this, the RoboCop Timeshift application runs its snapshots, is I'm going to get exactly what I need in order to be able to go in and do a restore if in fact there's some kind of an issue. Dead drive, a hack. I've been playing around too much, which I tend to like to do, and blew something up, and I just want to go back to where I was. And again, this really does work. It's not like Windows. It's not like microclunk. And I should mention also that one of the biggest issues with the microclunk restore system is that they don't offer you the ability to back up to external drives, which makes it useless. Because once somebody hacks your Windows system, you're not going to be able to get to those files anyway that are on your C drive. So it's just, typical, just insanity. I don't know what kind of engineer would write that kind of code. And of course it doesn't work. We all know it doesn't work. I've never met anybody who said it did work. So, but in Linux, if something doesn't work, then I'll go in and fix it, and make sure my users are happy and they have a successful experience. So here we have this, and it is going to call it Ubuntu 18.04 because that's what the release is. And even though I call it Robolinux Series 11. And if I ever want to do a restore, I can do a restore just by pressing one button and everything gets restored. So that's how easy it is to operate. And that is really all I can tell you about in this tutorial. Again, it's really easy to operate, as you just saw. Don't ever make a snapshot on your local drive. Always put it on an external. And, you're going to be protected from all kinds of, zero-day hacks. It doesn't really make any difference what, gets into your system, whether you blow it up, whether a hacker hacks your system, whether your drive blows up, as long as your external drive is still working, you're in good shape. And there again, I'll tell you, there's a secret to that, and that is you should have a second external drive that you back up. And here's how I do it. I back up my 2 terabyte to a 1 terabyte drive that's about 12 years old. And of course, when that drive dies, I'll have to get another one. And that's redundancy. And redundancy is common sense. And of course, here you see I also have a way of backing up my Robo. I wrote my own program to do this so that my data is backed up over here on the 2 terabyte drive, and you can see it over here. So, so there you have it. Thank you for watching this Robolinux tutorial. And if you feel grateful to Robolinux, I would certainly appreciate any kind of donations you could offer. And I thank you for your past donations, and hope you have a wonderful day, and may YHWH bless you greatly.